Welcome to another edition of The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. His real name is Cardale Jones. His nickname is Beanie Wells. I'm Dave Holmes. A lot to get to today. We have drama in Michigan. We have Jeremiah Smith rightfully angry about a snub, plus some former Buckeyes making big moves in the world of college coaching. But guys, let's start with where you've been, because both of you were somewhere interesting. Beanie was at Army-Navy. Now, I don't know about these other podcasts, but we love the troops on the Script. That's a hot take.
Oh, no question.
We are pro-troops on this show, so tell me what it was like being at Army-Navy.
You know, this is my second year doing the pregame shows for Army-Navy, and it's nothing short of amazing. It's a great time. You see all the pageantry, all the fanfare, but just the people that are at this game, it's like a who's who of who runs the country.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting an opportunity to meet some very important people, and then everybody in the sports world, wants to be there. You want to get an opportunity to go to that game and experience what it's like, experience not only the pageantry, but the fanfare. Got a chance to meet Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Got a chance to get some pictures with my son with Mark Wahlberg, Marky Mark, which was a cool deal. Then obviously got a chance to, I'm not a political guy, so don't kill me in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Got a chance to meet Pete Hegseth, who's the Secretary of War, which I thought, hey, I don't, get into politics, but when you got a title like that, that's very important.
He's the head of the military.
Exactly. I think that's pretty cool. Got a chance to obviously see Urban Meyer, congratulate him on getting into the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of amazing people there. So I was really excited to be able to take my son so he can get a chance to meet everybody and experience it, but it's second to none. Then got a chance to talk to Columbus's own Blake Horvath, who was the quarterback for Navy.
Yeah.
Balled out in that game, had a stellar season this year. So it was a fun experience, nonetheless.
All right, so I know, guys, look, we don't get political on the show, but can I at least say that if you're the president of the United States, you can't flip that coin like a pancake. You got to make that thing turn over, right?
That was hilarious, bro.
If you guys didn't see it, President Trump flipped the coin and basically threw it straight up in the air. It went viral on the coin
It's
toss.
like a layup.
Yeah. It was a finger roll.
He might have had some money on heads or tails.
FBI. All right, so Cardale, you, meantime, were out in Vegas for Urban Meyer's Hall of Fame. I know you probably can't tell us the good stories from Las Vegas, but what can you tell us about Vegas?
Had a great time. Flew out there right after the Big Ten championship game that following Sunday, the next Sunday, and then stayed out there throughout the next few days for the whole thing. And he had a pre-party at one of the nicest homes I ever seen in my life that was overlooking the Strip, and it was unbelievable. Yeah. And that was another event of who's who's. He had a lot of his guys from Utah, Bowling Green, Florida, and then clearly Ohio State. It was great to catch up with guys like Michael Thomas, Josh Perry and his wife was there. Mark Pantoni was there. And my guy Fernando was there, and he's now the AD at New Mexico. So it was a lot of those guys. Alex Smith was there, and they had an opportunity to share stories, and it was cool to meet some of his former players. And Dan Mullen was there for some of his former assistants and hear the stories that they told about him and what makes him great and what made that weekend so special and well-deserving for him to go into the College Football Hall of Fame.
Well, while you were in Vegas and you were at Army-Navy, the Michigan football program was burning to the ground, all right? So let's break this down. Okay, so first things first, guys. It is very easy in Columbus to tap dance all over Sherrone Moore and make light of it and the jokes and the memes. For me, once the alleged knife comes out, that's when it stops being funny, right? So we're going to refrain from jokes in that manner because this is way more serious than we thought at first, right? But Sherrone Moore fired out, charged with home invasion, stalking, breaking and entering. All right, Michigan is down bad. And I mean down bad. So what do you guys make of the current state of this program? Because the reputation has never been lower.
Oh, man, it's awful. I mean, you not only have, the Sherrone Moore situation, you go back to their offensive coordinator, which was a wild deal. You go back to the Connor Stallions.
By the way, he's referring to Matt Weiss, who had a cyber crime of sorts and looking at photos of female athletes.
This dude was legitimately getting access to the medical files for female athletes and kind of using it against them for whatever he was trying to do with them. So it was a crazy ordeal. Then you have, Connor Stallions, the whole cheating scandal, the John Harbaugh whole issue with the cheating scandal and the way that he was going about recruiting. Michigan's never looked worse as a program. And then you add this Sherrone Moore situation on top of it. It's kind of mind-boggling. I mean, when you look at situations, like when you're the head of a program, there's automatically that HR component that goes into play. Don't let me screw up any situation to where, I'm getting a phone call or I'm having somebody call HR about me in an impartial relationship, be it man or woman, within the program. And when you're the head of an organization like this, I mean, it's so unfortunate. And then, I hate to talk about it like this, right? There's not a lot of situations to where you have a black head coach of a university of this magnitude. A major university. This doesn't happen that often. So when it goes to a situation to where you're screwing up in the way that you're running the organization and program, I mean, it's a stain. It is a stain because you lose certain opportunities. But you already don't get these necessary opportunities to be a head coach of, the University of Michigan is such a prestigious university. But for you to just, run it in a gutter like this, it's crazy to me.
You know what? I think a lot of things that's happening with the University of Michigan right now is just from leadership on down. I think this is a perfect opportunity to cleanse the program of every stint and every scandal that's been happening under this leadership's watch. And I don't know where it starts. I don't know if it starts with the president, the AD, I don't know, wherever you need to start, where all of these things happen under their watch in a short period of time. It's the concerning factor of this. And then Beanie hits on a point of just, a lot of people have been coming out, primarily of the African-American community, who talked about not just Ohio State Michigan rivalry is cool to poke fun at that, but it's what does this blown opportunity from this black coach is going to do for the next up and coming black coach. He was handed the keys to the university. He was handed the keys to a national championship team where he basically not screwed it on the field. He screwed it on some things that you can control. And that's your desires, and that's the, the do's and don'ts of outside of your job title. I can see if he ran his program to the ground with losing, you 6-6 next year, you're 4 and whatever, and all this other stuff. And you can say, you know what, maybe it wasn't the right fit. But saying you wasn't the right fit character base, it's put a deeper stain on that resume. And I don't think he can potentially rebound from this, especially after the fact he was fired and his actions afterwards.
So that's the thing, all right? So I think we as a society with men are pretty good on giving guys a mulligan with the ladies.
For sure, 100%.
I mean, I can go up and down. The government and coaches and men in authority get a lot of mulligans with the ladies. The legal stuff afterwards,
that's what did it.
Is what buries you, right?
What did it. Yeah. And then like you got, as guys in our group chat with former players and things like that, we laugh and, say like, oh man, that stuff is happening almost everywhere. Like you joke about it, but like I think, like we said, like what happened afterwards is the main issue. Now, if you were to say he was fired because of an inappropriate relationship, oh man, that sucks, whatever. He can rebound from that.
We've seen Bobby Petrino do it. We've seen
we've seen it so
many times. You go be a coach
in
the MAC for 3 years and you're back.
Exactly. And then you still hear stories about Lane Kiffin and you don't know if they're true or not, but like he had to leave Alabama because he was messing with Saban's door. Like whatever the rumors are, or whatever. You can let them be rumors, let them, nobody will never be able to confirm those type of things. And then you go and kind of rebuild your career somewhere else. And now it's like it's never happened. But the things he did afterwards, unfortunately, is no coming back from.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Jim Harbaugh, at this point, guys, here's what I'm tired of with Michigan. For decades, Michigan played the moral authority. Like, oh, Michigan State, Ohio State, you win some games, but we win them living up here.
Michigan men.
That is done, dead, and buried. Jim Harbaugh doesn't have a coaching tree. He has a crime family. If you look at the guys under Harbaugh, it is criminal behavior. It is shady on the field behavior. It's done. You are no different. In fact, you're probably worse than the programs you've claimed to be above all these years. That's point one from me. 2, you said heads have to roll. At least somewhat cleansing was the word you used. Ward Manuel, the AD's got to be done. Got to be done. Because if they knew about this months ago, and by all accounts they did, if the message boards knew about it and they investigated this, if they knew months ago, then I want to know the timing. I want to know if Sherrone Moore goes 12-0 and beats Ohio State. Does this come out? I want to know if they have a bad recruiting class, that they had a good class. They locked these kids up on National Signing Day, and then it comes out afterwards. To me, the timing from Ward Manuel, their AD, that's suspect.
Yeah, that's awful. And it really speaks to, not even just at the University of Michigan, just the underlying thing as it pertains to wins and losses. When you're winning and everything's going well, and you're doing what you're thought of to be doing, everything's going to be fine. They're going to sweep everything under the rug. I mean, we've seen this happen on case after case. We go back to Louisville, and what's the coach's name? The old coach at Louisville, basketball coach.
Rick Pitino.
I mean, we go back that whole situation and saga that got him fired there. When you're winning, things are okay. But the minute you start losing and the dollars and cents start to dwindle and the reputation starts to dwindle of your program and what you can do as it pertains to winning and losing, things are not going to come ahead.
Yeah, they look for a little exit plan on you. Like, hey, those strippers you was ordering for those recruits, it's not okay anymore.
They're not winning.
Yeah. No strippers when we go 7-5. No 7-5 strippers.
Exactly, man. So it just sucks, the whole situation. And it's deeper. For me, it is deeper than the rivalry. When it all first came out, guys, I don't know if you saw me, but I was so active on Twitter with this stuff. Because I wanted to poke, because I saw how the Michigan fan base and the Michigan men responded to Ryan Day and his family and Ohio State Buckeye family when they lost to Michigan last year, especially the way they lost at home with 13-10, whatever the score was. And Ryan, and they thought it was funny when reports was coming out about, Coach Day and some of the other staffers' families couldn't go to school or was under so much scrutiny they didn't want to go outside, and they thought it was funny. But now, I was poking fun at this, and then, all this other stuff came out. I'm like calling them Coach Crash Out. I'm just like, man, this is the worst thing I ever seen when it comes to the response of a coach losing his job, and then really everything else was happening under this watch. It's embarrassing to our community, Beanie, as a guy of that status, because like you said, we don't get that many opportunities, especially at that type of university. But man, I mean, and I just want to be clear, if this is going on at Ohio State, Miami, wherever, I'll have the same opinion about
straight
it.
up.
100%.
So this is not just, and I said this in the very beginning when we first started doing the show, my take on any school would not just because my take would be so strong because I'm a Buckeye.
Yeah.
No. Just like the counter stallion thing came out, I said if Ohio State was doing the same thing, my take will be the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So
I think the bigger question, though, needs to really doesn't need to go this way, but I think it has to. Like, what happens to this football program now? I mean, what happens to all of these recruits? I mean, I'm sure some of these guys are going to be to be let out of their letter of intent. So a lot of these guys are going to want to transfer. It's going to be crazy to see the backlash of what happens after the fact.
Yeah, you've got a 5-star running back. You got Bryce Underwood. Everyone's eligible now in January.
Yeah, you got to, and I think the cleansing part of the program has to happen. We saw what you try to do when you tried to turn over the regime in-house when Harbaugh went to the NFL already under major scandals. And it's still set on fire. Now, I don't think you can hire any, unfortunately. And I look at a guy like Kerry Combs, former Ohio State defensive back. He just was hired there a week ago.
He gets hired, and 3 days later, he's like, coach?
Yeah, exactly. So, I think you got to get rid of the whole program at this point. And that's unfortunately for guys. I mean, Tony Alford's up there, a guy that, I love that guy. I know that he went to the dark side, but you can't deny he's a good coach and good recruiter. And unfortunately, when something happens to leadership, everyone's under them suffers, but you got to bring in someone with a completely different mindset. I think this is the first time in Michigan history you bring in someone with no Michigan ties.
Yeah, you have to.
And I thought it was weird when we hired Ryan Day, because if you look at the coaching tree of Ohio State, everyone has some type of Ohio State ties. You got to bring someone in and pretty much knock the walls down in that facility, cleanse that place, and really let them revamp the Michigan brand.
Yeah, I think when it comes to politics and college football, the assumption is always my side is clean, everyone else is dirty. That's the way people think in college football. But let me say this, as Buckeye fans, all right, pretty fortunate. You look at Georgia and how they have someone in the police blotter twice a week. And you look at what's going on at Michigan. Now, I am not naive to believe that 100 college students in the Ohio State locker room, there's not a couple guys up to something, because that's just the odds when you get 100 college boys together. Someone's up to something. But I will say this, at least from a broader perspective, you should feel real good right now, Buckeye fans, about Ryan Day's program, because you basically heard peep out of this place for 7 years.
Yeah. I mean, they should be. They should be proud.
I agree.
That's what I'm saying. And all the fire Ryan Day stuff after Michigan last year, that was an element where I said I'm not ready to go there, because he's run a really clean, good program.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, all that stuff was just emotional fans just being fans, and just people not having a bigger picture on how all of this stuff works and all the moving parts. Because you look at a place like Ohio State, you look at a place like Texas or Oregon and things like that. You are in college towns, right, where you have more things to get into, but you also have more support outside of that facility to make sure you stay clean and stay clear. And I was a product of that, going on High Street and making sure that, if it was situations or environments that, we know we shouldn't have been in and things like that, and something happened, we knew how and who to contact to make sure that our hands was clean and make sure that, our names didn't get brought up in unnecessary BS. And when you have college towns like that, you are afforded those luxuries on top of you're playing well.
Right.
And you got a good program as well. So, Ryan Day and other coaches around the country have ran a really good program, but like you said, you look at other places, man, and you better be fortunate in what you have.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, an interesting day for an Ohio State recruit. This is a wild story, the story of Legend Bay. We're going to talk about this coming up next on The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. College football not feeling as juicy as it once did. Well, let me put you onto something that'll shake up your Saturday and every other day of the week. Because now that Wendy's has crispy chicken tendies and a powerhouse lineup of new sauces, it's time you transfer to the hottest team in the league.
That's right. Team Tendies. Wendy's Tendies, they're making their undeniable rookie season one for the books. Enjoy first-string flavor from some 5-star recruits. Rep your new favorite team everywhere you go, but make sure you cheer with your mouth closed.
Take it to the end zone of savory sauces like honey barbecue, creamy ranch, and that new Wendy's signature sauce to experience a total taste bud blitz of flavor. It's time to join the team that won't upset you with an upset.
Taste the phenom that's gracing the gridiron with its juicy, crispy, and tendery tendencies. Don't fumble the bag. Commit to Team Tendies and call the most delicious plays in the playbook. All right, huddle up. Tendies on 3. Tendies on 3. 1, 2, 3. Tendies. Let's do this. Wendy's Chicken Tendies now at participating U.S. Wendy's.
For Buckeyes and businesses, Branded Bills has you covered. Whether you're showing your scarlet and gray pride or you're building a brand of your own, nothing tops a custom hat.
Branded Bills is a proud sponsor of Ohio State athletics with licensed Buckeye headgear that looks just as good in the horseshoe as it does when you're walking around Columbus. And beyond game day, they specialize in custom headwear that helps businesses, teams, and communities stand out with premium fit, finish, and style.
So whether you are a diehard Buckeye, an entrepreneur, or just someone who want to rep their story, check out Branded Bills. Explore their official licensed Ohio State collection or design your own custom hat built just for you. Branded Bills for Buckeyes and businesses, licensed pride, custom style.
Welcome back to The Script. Make sure you hit us up on all social media at The Script OSU and click subscribe right now if you're watching on YouTube. That's by far the most fun version. Time now, guys, for our Dr. Pepper look around the world of college football. Julian Sayin is not your Heisman winner. He's a Heisman finalist. Fernando Mendoza is the winner. Meantime, Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt's quarterback, does what I think any humble man does. As soon as he loses, he gets on social and says, F all the voters.
Not just that, he takes it to a New York nightclub after and get that little bottle service and have the sign says, I don't know why he says Indiana, but yeah, he's the comparisons of him to Johnny Manziel has never been so similar in my life.
It's given Manziel. The whole thing is giving me Manziel 100%. Vibe. So are you guys all right with Fernando winning the Heisman?
I'm perfectly fine with it. Obviously, I love the story of Fernando Mendoza and everything that Indiana has been able to do. I mean, look, that team went out and won as many games as they ever have in the storied university of that program. Well, I would say lack thereof storied, but nonetheless, they're a storied program now, winning the Big Ten title, and then Fernando Mendoza leading the charge as a transfer quarterback, putting up great numbers and being the engine that drove this football team. I'm perfectly fine with it. I do think there's other guys that probably could have won it, but the whole storyline and everything that it encompasses, I think it was fitting.
Yeah, I think now with the Heisman, it's going more towards that. And we talked about this earlier this year, and actually probably all through this year, of that Heisman moment and the storyline that follows the Heisman Trophy winners. And what better storyline, between the top two guys who finished 1 and 2, Mendoza, who ultimately won it, and then Pavia, of their journeys to the schools, how they have transformed their schools on a national level. But I just think, my vote went to Diego Pavia. When you look at the meaning of the Heisman Trophy, I think what I thought the meaning was a dynamic player, a player who has the biggest impact on their team. I think Mendoza clearly has a huge impact on the Indiana team, but you take away Diego Pavia from that Vanderbilt team and you put him into that Indiana offense, I think Indiana is potentially still 12-0.
Yep.
But I don't know if you put Mendoza and that Vanderbilt offense, and they're 10-2. I don't think so. The way they play, the style of play. I mean, Diego Pavia was a leading passer and rusher and touchdowns on his team.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to say that he's not the Heisman Trophy winner just based off that alone. On top of playing in the conference they played in and things like that. But I'm not against Mendoza winning it, because I'm all for the storyline that's building up for this Indiana program and really getting them to some legendary status of having their first Heisman Trophy winner, having their first outright Big Ten championship, beating the number one team in the country. The run they have been on, beating Oregon at Oregon, Iowa at Iowa, Penn State at Penn State, and now locking up the number one seed and look like they're going to pretty much, I wouldn't say coast to the national championship game, but a very favorable path to the national championship game. I even wouldn't have a problem with them bringing it all home. I mean, clearly they have the potential to. I love the storyline of this Indiana program and where they're going.
Okay, so the award I have a beef with is Jeremiah Smith not winning the Biletnikoff.
Yes.
This is
2 years in a row.
This is chapter 2 of the Jeremiah Smith villain origin story. When he snaps one day and this is it. This is what made him evil. He should have won it last year. He should have won it this year. How, guys, is he in the top 10 in the Heisman? And we just widely accept him as the most talented player in college football. That's almost stated as fact. He's the best receiver in the Big Ten. By the way, Makai Lemon's also in the Big Ten, but he's not the Biletnikoff winner. Make it make sense.
It made no sense. Didn't he won the receiver award for the Big Ten?
Yeah,
right?
That's what I'm saying.
The receiver award.
He's better than Makai Lemon in the Big Ten, but just not in the big picture.
It makes zero sense. And when you break down the numbers, I think they were, give or take, maybe 10 catches off and 100 yards. And Jeremiah Smith missed some opportunities because he missed games. It made zero sense.
And didn't play fourth quarters a lot of times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It made zero sense to not have him up there winning the Biletnikoff. Obviously, Makai Lemon is a pretty good receiver, but we all know who far and beyond is the best player, not just wide receiver in college football. And you sit there and rob him twice. I mean, it makes no sense in my mind. And it makes me really want to figure out who these voters are for these certain awards, because there may be a little bit of biased or non-biased in saying that Ohio State gets too much credit. We don't want to give these guys too many of these national awards type situations going on.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from, and I agree with that. I think at the end of the day, you got to start letting some of these fans vote on some of these things and bringing in other aspects, just like the NFL do with the Pro Bowl voting, having a portion of it come from the fans, having a portion of it come from the players, having a portion of it come from the media, and a portion of it coming in from the coaches as well. Now, what that divvy is it 25, 25, 20? No. But I think you got to take in consideration those type of things as well, because you have so many biases when people have their votes on who they're exposed to the more often, right, than not. So, like, for example, the SEC voters for the Heisman and all these bigger national awards are going to vote naturally for the SEC guys because they see them more common than the Big Ten or the ACC or other guys like that. So you got to create a level playing field on these voting aspects, but it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's just like when, back in the day when Cornelius Green won the MVP of the Big Ten, but Archie won the Heisman.
Yes.
I didn't make sense because you cannot actually say that Jeremiah Smith isn't the best freaking receiver in the country. Like, come on, what are we talking about?
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I was riding the elevator in the shoe. I'm going up to the press box, and there was a scout. I won't give his team, but he's decked out in all one NFL team. And they're a very good team with a good quarterback. And I said to him, hey, you need to get your guy some help. Why don't you draft Carnell Tate? And he laughed, and he said, Carnell's not going to be there when we're drafting. And he goes, but we'd give up multiple firsts right now for Jeremiah. And I thought it was so funny how even he, semi-joking, was still serious. Like, these NFL teams know it. We all know it. Everyone knows it.
Right.
But the guy's not won the Biletnikoff yet at all.
Yeah, but like another thing with the college awards, man, that stuff don't translate. Like you have so many, for example, you got so many Heisman Trophy winners at this level who don't translate to the NFL. You got so many Biletnikoff winners and all these other winners of these national awards that don't necessarily mean you're not going to be a great NFL player, or if you don't win it, you're not going to be a great NFL player. So it's just I think it's just another milestone that guys are well deserving to check off their box, but long term, it don't mean anything.
I just want it for these guys' legacy. I mean, 20 years from now, I would love for Jeremiah Smith to be able to say, you know what, I was the guy that won the Biletnikoff 2 years back to back, or 3 years back to back, and he very well should have. That's what more so I want it for when his career's done, because he was that great and that impactful for the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah, but and the funny part about that, even without that war, like everybody's going to know who Jeremiah Smith is. And like Dave made a comment early on in the show, there's not many guys you can mention it by first name in Ohio State history. You know exactly who they are. Jeremiah Smith is going to be a guy that you mentioned all around college football and know who the hell he is from years to come. And you're going to say, yeah, he was the best receiver since he was in college. And then you're going to look it up. Oh, he didn't win Biletnikoff? Okay, who cares? He's he's the best receiver.
Well, the Buckeyes did get Caleb Downs to win the Jim Thorpe Award, best defensive back. He joins Antoine Winfield, Malcolm Jenkins. You play with Malcolm, right?
Yeah, I play with Malcolm.
So he belongs in that group with Malcolm Jenkins?
Oh, no question about it. You know who's a guy that I think probably should have been one of those winners of the Jim Thorpe Award that never did it. Again, we're talking about players who were all-time greats and didn't necessarily get that recognition by winning the Ultimate Player Award at that position. Mike Doss. Mike Doss should have been three-time All-American.
Three-time All-American.
Win the Jim Thorpe Award. He probably should be in that discussion, but nonetheless, congrats to Caleb Downs. He most certainly belongs with the likes of Antoine Winfield and Malcolm Jenkins. He's that impactful, if not more than those guys when they're on their respective teams.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about this. This is the story that actually is grabbing me the most this morning. Legend Bay. All right. So if you guys don't know the story, Legend Bay is a 4-star athlete. He's been committed to Ohio State for a long time. Then at the last second, he flips to Tennessee. The word was basically his family said, hey, you're going to Tennessee. Those are the reports. Now Legend Bay has requested a release from his letter of intent just about a week and a half after signing with Tennessee. So Legend could be coming back to Ohio State. I will say this to Legend's family. If he wants to play for the Buckeyes and not Tennessee, this is what happens when you name your kid Legend and not mediocre. If you named him overrated, mediocre, he'd go to... All right, so what do you guys make of this? Legend Bay, this flip-flop family drama.
Yeah, I'm going to come in first because I want Cardale to bring it home because he knows more about the whole NIL and recruiting era than we all do. But nonetheless, this is a cautionary tale, in my opinion, how dollars and cents can tear apart a family. And I don't know all the particulars. I just know that it's alleged that his family wanted him to go to Tennessee because the package was a little bit better in terms of a financial plan. And this kid's heart was set on going to Ohio State. So just think of the tear and divide in that household that he's experiencing when it's supposed to be one of the happier times of his life. This is a kid that's going to college, getting a scholarship to play at a bunch of great universities and going to live out a dream. And now he's not able to go out and do what he ultimately wants to do because a lot of people are involved, and probably more than likely it's because of the money that's being tossed around.
Yeah, take us behind the scenes. Mr. NIL, I know you can't say everything, but what is this current state like, and what do you think when you see this story?
You know, it's sad it happens more common than not, than where you have so many people from the outside. Well, I won't say from outside. So many people within these circles or these families that's been infiltrated by different people from universities. And maybe that, and not saying this is a situation, I know of situations where families was given money by these universities to influence their kid to come there against where they really want to go. And unfortunately, it sounds similar to that with this Legend Bay situation. I know NIL here was not an issue at all for him to come here and what his NIL hit will look like for this team. Just from experience, I know that he wanted to be a Buckeye. If you guys remember, I think he decommitted from Florida State to be a Buckeye. And it's sad to hear the stories that, other people is trying to control his future, where he is ultimately the one that got to go out there and go to class. He's also the one that got to go out there and be in the weight room, in the film room, and study tables, and ultimately going out there and practices and performing on the field. And unfortunately, it's people around him who have ulterior motives when it comes to his future and what they think it should look like. It's his decision. If he wanted to go play for the Kent State Golden Flash, he should be able to do so.
We'll give him all the NIL he can ask for. We can afford like $80 a Subway gift card. I don't know what we give up at Kent State.
But yeah, so it's stories out there where you have families where this kid was the number one at his position. I'm not going to mention any names. He was number one in his position a few years ago, and he wanted to go to Ohio State during the final hour of the recruiting process. 2 other schools was in the pockets of the families. One was in the pocket. One parent was in the pocket. It wasn't together. Louisville was in one pocket, and telling the family, I'm going to give you X amount and your daughter can come here for free. And Auburn was in the pocket of dad where it said basically, hey, I already gave you this money to make sure he didn't commit anywhere. And kid had no clue about none of it. When he committed to Louisville, knew his NIL package, knew his work, knew position he was going to play there and things like that. And then when Louisville coach went to Purdue, I think it was just recent.
Brom.
Yeah, went to Purdue. That's where he kind of opened back up recruiting, and that's where he was going to take a trip to Ohio State, and really was considering Ohio State. And then at the end of the day, mom comes in the final hour. Hold on, I'm gonna need this, and my daughter needs to go there for free. I told her, "Go Bucks. We don't operate like that." Oof. And he didn't go to neither school, and now he's down somewhere else. If I tell you where he's at, you guys know who he is. Yeah, but he's somewhere else.
So he's not
right
at neither school.
He's at neither school. He's in the college football playoffs right now, though.
Wow.
Yeah.
We can dwindle that down to about 12 teams. But nonetheless, that's a crazy situation.
That is wild.
But both of this was happening. Then the kid had no clue.
So he doesn't know that both his parents are basically negotiating against each other and against their own kid.
Well, they didn't know they was negotiating against each other. They think they being slick. Like, Auburn gave me this. The worst part, Auburn gave dad some money. I'm going to give you $300, $200 for him, $100 for you. And he kept it all.
Wow. But the mere
True
fact.
story.
So Cardale,
True story.
Universities are legitimately working in a way to where, like, if you got siblings, hey, I want my brother and sister to get a scholarship.
Well, I mean, if your schools that's not on these top tier levels, and like I said, when mom said that to me, go Bucks, we don't operate like that. Boom.
Right.
Like, when you trying to make a splash in the recruiting world, you're trying to find ways to do things like that, right? And then when I say university, I'm saying people affiliated with a university.
Right, exactly.
So when I say if it's I'm not saying the university is directly saying I'm gonna get you,
exactly.
But it's like it's a donor calling, hey, get such and such in. I'm paying for the school.
Right.
Yeah. That's the way it's happening. For those type of things where I'm the head coach of whatever school and I'm calling up the big donor and say, hey, we can get this kid. I'm going to need $300. I'm going to need you to call the president and get her admissions or her application pushed through.
Hey, you know who Cardale is? What's the guy's name on Blue Chips? Blue Chips. Cardale is the operator from Blue Chips that knows everything that's going on. Hey, I'm gonna make this happen.
Yeah, I unfortunately do know too much, and that I'm gonna be real, not a lot of things happen really in the city without me knowing.
Is the guy's name Artie from Blue Chips? I gotta figure out his name.
I'm sure Evelyn did Cardale agree to this?
Yeah.
Like, he's got to have
Cardale,
right? Man, I feel like I need a shower after listening to that story.
It's so crazy, guys. I'm telling you, and that's my one major horror story about NIL. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of great stories about NIL as well, where I've talked to families where I said, no, we don't need to talk about that yet. Mm-hmm. That's going to come when he hits those levels and we know he's going to be there. Tell me about what's like in Columbus, Ohio. Tell me about, and I'm going to give you my unbiased opinion. I'm going to give you my unbiased opinion of things. And we talked about this off the air of just having an opportunity to talk to some of these families without agents and things like that and building relationships with these guys very early, where I'm just walking them through what a contract should look like. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the do's and don'ts. I'm talking about how you breach the things, because we're not trying to pull a fast one on you. Right? We want to make sure you understand everything you're getting yourself into versus trying to lock you into something. You hear stories about, I think the kid name is Damon Wilson from Georgia. He transferred to Missouri. But we recruited him out of high school as well. And I remember specifically talking to that family, and they took it as a business approach. We ain't got no allegiance. We going where the money is. Mm-hmm. And they went to Georgia, and things didn't work out for him in the first 2.5 years, 3 years at Georgia. And he was in an NIL agreement where if he went to another school and signed NIL, that collective had to pay his buyout, or he got to pay that money back. Georgia is suing him now because he's at Missouri. He had a great breakout season, 10 plus sacks. And they're suing him for like over $350,000 because of the wording in that contract that he took another deal with another collective.
Yeah, sometimes when I hear someone say like, I've been married 5 times, I think, well, that's cool. You found 5 people who want to marry you, but that means you found 4 people who want to divorce you.
That's a good point too.
And sometimes when I see a kid transfer 3 or 4, it's fine. You want to transfer once or once you transfer 3 or 4 times, I'm thinking, who's the problem? Really?
Right. Well, you got another kid right now, and this is no knock on these kids. We're just talking about situations. The kid name is TJ Finley. I remember meeting him when I was in the XFL, and I went down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana with my quarterback coach, Ted White, who's the quarterback coach at Maryland right now. And we went over to LSU to see Joe and Jamar and all these guys. So I hung around practice. TJ Finley, I think, was the number 1 or number 2 quarterback in the country. He committed to LSU. played one season there, transferred to Auburn, transferred to Texas State, transferred to 4 or 5 different
I
schools.
remember this kid.
Yeah.
He just finished his season somewhere. Now he's transferred. It's his 7th season in college football, and he's playing in the 7th season. I think 6 or 7 different teams.
Crazy as hell.
Yeah, so he's transferring somewhere else right now. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. When you continue to see all the moving parts, you're like, okay, who really is the issue here?
Yeah, I'm saying this. Let's revisit, because during the offseason, I want just tales from the NIL crypt. All I want
Tales from the NIL.
Tales from the NIL.
Every week I'm gonna have a horror story for you.
We're gonna do an off-season episode. All right, coming up next here on The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Marcus Freeman to the NFL. Those are the rumors. Would it be a wise decision? We'll break that down coming up. Welcome back to The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Hit us up at The Script OSU on social. All right, guys, rumor season is upon us for the NFL. Every coach gets fired, so the names start getting floated. Marcus Freeman to the Giants. I've seen people float this out there. All right. Marcus Freeman, one of the hottest names in coaching.
Mm-hmm.
He's your guy.
Yep.
You played with him. Urban Meyer basically said, don't do it because they'll fire you in the NFL. Because when you go to college, guys, it's 10-2, 11-1 every year. There's a talent gap. You go to the NFL, we see it. I mean, it is a what have you done for me lately? So if you're Marcus Freeman's agent, and you kind of are at times on this show,
agent.
would you tell your guy to stick with the Irish or go pro?
I'm having a conversation. Hey, Marcus, you know what happens at the next level in the National Football League? There's a standard, and you don't get as much time. They want you to win right now. They may give you 3 years, but after that, it's a wrap. You stay at Notre Dame. You know what we can do? We can use this right here as leverage. We can go back to the powers that be at Notre Dame and tell them, hey, Marcus is literally considering this position. And they're giving him X amount of dollars. What are you going to do to keep this guy? He's gotten you to the college football playoff in back-to-back years. Oh, sorry, we just missed this year. We should have been in. But nonetheless, he's gotten you to the college football playoff. He's gotten you on the cusp of getting into another one. And I think next year is probably going to be our year. What are you willing to do to keep him?
Can I play Marcus Freeman now?
Yes, please.
You're my agent. But Agent Beanie, how do they decide the playoffs in the NFL? Do a bunch of gray-haired guys vote on it in a room, or do I just get in if I win a lot of games?
No, we're getting this thing. We're getting this thing fixed. We're getting this thing to where we have an automatic bid if we go 10-2 every year.
Okay,
that we're going to be automatically in there. So it won't be a situation to we're on the bubble and we'll be on the outside looking in. Once it pops, we'll be on the inside of that bubble.
How much am I making again? Like 10, 11 mil?
Yeah, right now, we don't put it out there to the public because we are a private institution. But if you really want to know, you're making about $12 million.
Oh, then I'm going to stay. Cardale?
Yeah, I think, I thought about this as, all these, as soon as a coach name get brought up in another team's search, these dumbass universities jump the gun and just pay these guys. Like, I'm sorry, Kenny Dillingham.
Dillingham.
Come on, man. What are we doing? Talking about, relax. Pump your brakes. And it's so funny to see that these major universities deal with all these monies and they make horrible financial decisions when it comes to jumping the gun too early. I think he's a good coach, but I wouldn't have paid him early just because he got a name in Michigan. But I don't think that you can do this in this situation because if Marcus Freeman goes to the NFL, he's not going to be making the same amount of money he's making in South Bend. I mean, NFL coaches, college coaches, the average college coach on like the major Power 5 levels is probably making a little bit more than the average NFL coach is making at that level. So probably $4 to $5 million NFL coach probably making about, 4.5 maybe on the average side of things. So, yeah, it's not even leverage that he can use. It'll be strictly if he wanted to take that challenge. But as far as leverage to get more money or something more out of Notre Dame, I don't think that will work because Notre Dame's already given him everything he needs.
I think the biggest thing where coaches look at from going to college to the NFL is the less amount of time.
Lifestyle.
Lifestyle. Exactly. They don't have to spend as much time at the NFL level.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. I think, but I do think I wouldn't say less amount of time. I would say the lifestyle. You have a true off season in the NFL.
Yeah.
Now, knowing coaches in the NFL right now, like JT Barrett, he's going into his 5th year coaching overall, first year as the Bears head coach. Perfect as the Bears quarterback coach. By the way, got the Bears rolling. Caleb Williams is playing really good right now.
Man. JT got him.
And you talk about the grind, your teams get grinded in the season. But when it's relaxed time off season, That's their relax in the offseason, things like that. Now, that's the biggest difference. I will argue the NFL coaches are putting in just as much or probably even more hours during the week, during the season, and clearly your regular season is longer.
But it's on football, though. That's the thing.
On football. Yeah,
you're not going to some banquet to speak to raise money.
Exactly. You're not dealing with donors. You're not answering to recruits. You're not kissing butt, and you're not dealing with guys going to class. So yeah, the lifestyle change is definitely different. I think that's what's really keeping JT on the NFL side of things. Like, no, I'm not going back to college and coach anything and put more on my plate for probably, comparable money.
I love what you said about how whenever a name gets floated, these universities freak and give a raise and a new 5. I've tried that. I've tried to float rumors of me. I've like tried to get it going around the TV station. Like,
another Emmy.
I might leave for another station. They're like, hey man, good luck. Which
door you want to leave out of?
Yeah. Hey, before we move on from this conversation, right? I don't know if you guys saw what happened at Utah, to where their athletic department just was infused by some Wall Street guys for like $500 million.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden,
they sold a portion of it.
Yeah, they sold a portion of it. Was it $500 million? And that was the number.
Something like that.
All of a sudden, Kyle Whittingham, who was the coach, decides to retire after 21 years.
Well, go ahead.
So I want to know both of you guys' opinion, if this happens to be a situation to where all of a sudden Wall Street is jumping into college football. Will we see more historic coaches decide to say, I don't want to deal with this shit. I'm getting out of here.
Because you got more people to answer to.
Yeah.
That's the issue. And you got quotas to make, and they gotta find a way to make that money back. So they're making a $500 million investment. Let's just say the number. Well, now your athletic department is making Ohio State, let's say $200 million a year. Clearly they're paying that interest back to this entity, and you don't own. And when you start selling parts of your athletic department, you have more decision makers who wants decision makers from Wall Street having an impact on your financial budget.
Right.
You do that now. What if they say, you know what? Hey, I don't think you guys should have as many sports. Or, hey, I don't think you should invest too much into tennis or whatever the case may be. So you have too many hands in the pot of that way. So it's like the risk reward. What is it?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think a lot of people were acting like Nick Saban was washed. He wasn't washed. He was tired. I mean, I just think he was tired of dealing with it. And we saw like Jeff Hafley go from Ohio State. Did he go to Boston College? And then he's like, you know what? This college ain't for me. He goes to the Packers. He might be an NFL head coach next year. Like, he's a hot name. I think some people, like Cardale was saying, just say, I'd rather go 90-hour weeks during the season than deal with Wall Street and donors and NIL and recruits. Like, it's not for everyone. I mean, Ryan Day says that all the time. It's not for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. I think A.D. Ross came out and said something. He had a pretty good hit on CNN. This was earlier in the season where we first started to see these talks about Wall Street and venture capital investing and getting involved into these college athletic programs because of the NIL dollars. And, they can hit you with a huge number up front, but you're basically selling parts of your athletic department, and you having people having a say on don't know the boots on the ground in everyday business about running a public university. So that's the issue there. And I can see why a coach wouldn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, Jim Knowles, the new defensive coordinator at Tennessee. So you remember his story. He went from Oklahoma State to the Buckeyes, won a national title, nasty breakup, went to Penn State. That's obviously dead with James Franklin. Now Tennessee. So as the world turns here in the Jim Knowles saga, what do you guys make of him with the Vols?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if I'm, Coach Josh Heupel down there, if I'm going for Jim Knowles, because I saw what just happened at, Penn State. Jim Knowles' system takes a couple of years to kind of make its impact and imprint. And if you're Josh Heupel, I don't know if you have those couple of years that you can afford. It could be a situation to where you're dealing with that boom or bust type defense, and your ass is losing 4 or 5 games, and you may be out of there. So I don't know if, I'm in a situation that's not so stable if I'm going for a Jim Knowles type defense.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of crazy to see James Franklin take some coaches from Penn State and not Jim Knowles.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. So
Isn't
and we made this comment a few weeks back on the show, like, you get a girlfriend, you get married, everybody wants you at that point.
Right.
But it's just like at the point, this is like, I don't know if I want a guy that no one wants. I know you're only 2 years away from coaching a national championship defensive team, but then you look at, like you said, Beanie, well, how long it took them to get to that point and, things like that. And, are you dealing with a lot of veterans and dealing with a lot of talent around them? So, yeah, it would have been a red flag for me not to, you spent less than a year with James Franklin, and he didn't even want you to be part of the staff at Virginia Tech.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, if you're wondering why we're not talking a ton of Buckeye football, because we're waiting to find out Ohio State's opponent between Texas A&M and Miami. So next week's going to be all about the Cotton Bowl. That said, guys, time now for our Buckeye basement solution. We try to diagnose a problem in the world of football. Philip Rivers, 44-year-old grandfather Philip Rivers, called off the couch to play for the Colts and almost got a win against Seattle. Cardale, you know Philip Rivers. Yeah. You crossed paths with him in the Chargers. What do you make of Grandpa Rivers getting a shot in the NFL? And then my bigger question, the Buckeye basement solution, no disrespect to Mr. Rivers. What is wrong with the NFL quarterback development that we are calling 44-year-old grandpas off the couch? And there are how many NFL quarterbacks? 64 to 96 at any point on a roster? And none of these guys is better than a grandpa?
Well, it's funny because you heard the stories about, Sam Ehlinger. They tried to sign him off the practice squad from Denver, and he turned it down because he liked the Sean Payton system and liked to develop under Sean Payton and feel like his long-term longevity is there and being in that system. And then you look at what Shane Steichen has done over his career, Coach Philip, me and Philip, in the Chargers, and then clearly Philip finished his last year or two with the Colts before he retired 5 years ago. And so it's a familiarity there when he comes to the coaches and then the system and the language as well. So I understand why you will go get a guy that is familiar with you and your system, knowing you trying to make a playoff run. Now, do I think it's a guy that's 44 years old who haven't played a competitive step? I don't know the answer, but, what were they asking Daniel Jones to do before he got hurt? And my biggest question, what the is wrong with Anthony Richardson?
Yeah, who got injured pregame doing like a rubber band workout or something. That's like a season ender. I don't understand what's going on.
I don't know, man. That whole situation is different. I'm pretty sure that staff is wiping their hands with him.
Yeah, seems like it.
Yeah, he probably won't be there this upcoming year. But it is kind of crazy to know that your best bet was a guy who's been, not playing the game, but been coaching at the high school level and getting his son ready as being one of the top recruits at the quarterback position here coming up the next year. So it's kind of crazy to see. And I was pulling for Fields so hard to go out there and win that game. And, I think it's very similar to what we saw from him 5 years ago where, he's never been a dominant athlete, right? But smart, getting the ball out of his hands, being able to get guys lined up and things like that. I think that's what they're looking for and that's what they got from him.
So Beanie, what's your Buckeye basement solution here? What's wrong with the NFL? What is going on that the lack of quarterback play that is suddenly there? I mean, you look around the league, there are some bad quarterbacks making it.
It is. I mean, and I think Tom Brady talked about it at the beginning of the year, is the development of quarterbacks. The development in terms of the offensive play callers, building and tailoring a system around these guys. I think that's been more happening. You want to get the best of the guys immediately, opposed to allowing these guys to build, learn the nuances of understanding defenses, learn the nuances of understanding and digesting an entire playbook. When you dumb things down for guys, that obviously, it helps them get out there and be able to play right now, but it does nothing for their development long term. And I think that's what we've been seeing. We've been seeing a lot of coaches dumb down systems for quarterbacks, opposed to letting them go out there and build themselves and learn through the fire. Yeah, that's what needs to happen on a consistent basis, and that's what NFL has been lacking.
And then I think another thing too is all these clown ass quarterback trainers. I'm sorry, I'm not taking training from a guy who didn't do it. I'm not taking coaching from a guy who didn't do the highest level. I don't care how much film you want to watch. I don't care what geometry you're talking about, arm angles and all this other stuff. And everybody trying to be Patrick Mahomes and doing all this stuff. You're trying to coach guys to have God-given talent. I'm sorry to break it to you. It's nothing you can do with a guy, average Joe Smo, to turn him to Patrick Mahomes. It's not going to happen. So you have all of this new trend of these individual trainers and trying to act like they know what was best for these guys. And I'm going to teach you how to throw different arm angles when you probably got to do that shit 4 times a year. And you're not focused on the neck up. One thing I loved about the training process when I went through the draft process, I trained with a guy named Jimmy Ray, and it was more sort of classroom stuff. And that was his focus. He was a long-time coach in the NFL, coached X amount of quarterbacks, but I was getting training. And Philip Rivers was another guy who came out there because I was training with his brother. I'm having a brain fart on his brother, but he went to LSU. And he talked about the neck up. And I remember I got traded to the Chargers from the Buffalo Bills, and that's the first person I reached out to was Philip before I even got there. What things I should focus on first? I'm thinking he's going to say my footwork and things like that. And he was like, protections and formations. Because if you can't get guys lined up and protect yourself, don't worry about the play.
Right.
It wasn't like, make sure you can hit the D ball, make sure you hit the comeback. Oh, your arm angle got to be this. And him and Kellen Clemens, I walked into that quarterback room and it gave me a different perspective. It made me feel like I never even played the position because it was nothing about your athletic ability. It was nothing about arm angles. It was all about the neck up. And that's what we're missing now as much as the young quarterback development, where they having more time to say, hey, I'm going to be patient with this guy versus like, I'm drafting this guy because he's a great athlete. Hence, no knock on him, but hence Anthony Richardson. You know, I'm just like, oh yeah, he looks like an action figure in his compression shorts and he can run a crazy 40 and do all this other stuff. But that's you know, all those spectacular plays. Yeah, I may get 1 or 2 spectacular plays from him on a deep ball, something like that, a game. But what about the other 48 where he was late to a read or missed a read? And not just going for him in as an example, but just a lot of these guys are like that.
Well, it's Beanie's clip that he's referencing, the Tom Brady clip. It was on a podcast, I believe. It was really good. He basically said, we are so quick to label quarterbacks as busts and not put any responsibility on front office and player development. And you look around the league, like Daniel Jones, who was left for dead with the Giants, ends up revitalizing with the Colts. Everyone left Sam Darnold for dead, including the Vikings for whatever reason, getting rid of him so they could go with 9. That's not working out well. Baker Mayfield, Browns was a bad fit, no doubt, but he was written off as a bust at some time.
We were just about to write Caleb Williams off before this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you see it.
Yeah, but we understand this game, though. It's a what have you done for me lately? It's a lead that's going to continue to get younger, and everybody is scared of the Patrick Mahomes situation. Passing up on him so many. I mean, how many guys went in front of him?
I mean, a dozen or so. He wasn't a top 5 pick.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was a great number of guys who went in front of him, but it's like these GM and these front office decision makers are so emotional and want the next best thing right now versus focus on a long-term development.
Because they want to make their career with a splash. I was the guy that drafted Patrick Mahomes.
Of course.
I made that decision. I saw him before everybody did.
Of course.
Carter, you hit it on the head when you talked about Sam Ehlinger and him wanting to stay with the Broncos and be coached by their head coach. I mean, you look at the way that Biletnikoff is playing right now. He had Drew Brees down in New Orleans, and Drew Brees was a great quarterback, but I think him playing with Sean Payton elevated his game to a completely different level, and he's the Drew Brees that we know because of that reason. Because it wasn't going to be the same in San Diego.
100%. And then you look at, you look at Sam Ehlinger right now, because he's developing on a practice squad right there, and kudos to him for having that understanding that, hey, my goal is to be an NFL quarterback. I don't think I'm ready yet.
Right.
Because clearly he had to start right there in Seattle. He'd been thrown to the Wolves, and it would have been like, oh man, this bum, get him back out of here. What is he doing? Like, so it's the lead is a what have you done for me lately? It's the only business in the world where they prefer a younger guy. Now you go into the doctor's office and we see a guy that, oh yeah, using my math class, I'm walking right back out. I'm walking right back out. Oh hell no, you need some more experience. Don't practice on me.
But do my open heart surgery.
Exactly. And it's completely opposite with the NFL because one, like I said, continue to get younger, body more fresh, and you're cheaper. But they're missing the bigger picture of, development, a long-term thing as well.
All right, let's get you out on this one. It has been frigid, negative wind chills all over the Midwest. Miserable here in Columbus. We saw Shedeur Sanders and the Browns had to play some awful weather against the Bears. Do you guys have a cold weather memory, a game where you guys, because I've always said that when I'm on the sidelines of certain games when I'm covering it, I walk real slow by the bench by the heaters. I'm like a brisk walk, and then I just stroll past the heaters, and then I brisk walk. So do you guys have a cold weather game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we played at Northwestern in 2008, and we played, was it both the same years? I think it was back-to-back. We played at Northwestern, then we played at Illinois. It was freezing there. I'm talking like 1 week it was maybe 15 degrees, the next week it was 10 degrees. I didn't want to be out there, but fortunately, the defense didn't want to be out there either. So I know they weren't going to want to tackle at all, but it was cold as hell. Anytime I got to the sideline, I remember being late to run out to the football field because I was in front of the heater with a coat on, and you got the hood up, and I'm not hearing, oh, offense. And Coach Truss was like, Beanie, get your ass out there. And I got to run out there on the football field because I'm not paying attention because it was that cold.
You're like, Truss, there's still 15 on the play clock. I got
Oh, my God, dude. We played in Minnesota. It was a game JT broke the record for the longest quarterback around that took 10 minutes. Bro, it was so cold. It was the only game I ever prayed not to get in. And I'm like, I remember when we went up 2 scores, and I was pissed. And I'm like, keep it close, Minnesota. Keep it close. So we go out. I remember we going out, everybody trying to be tough. Oh, I ain't go and stuff like that. I'm like, shit, give me 2 Under Armours, all that shit. And we put our helmets down to get ready to do our little warm up, and we go pick them back up before we start throwing. And the pads were frozen, so we couldn't put our helmets on. So when they finally brought out the heaters and stuff, I remember being on the sideline. I burnt up 2 coats. I was in the coat on the sideline. I got too close to the heater.
Right.
I burnt 2 coats. That was the coldest day of my life. And then I think, honestly, my state championship game in high school was record one of the coldest days in Ohio history too. So it was pretty cold that game too. But I feel like that Minnesota cold was a different type of cold. I was like, please keep it close, guys.
Yeah, I got spoiled playing against Minnesota. I played when we played indoors.
Oh, in the dome.
Yeah, we were in the dome.
You got the Metro Dome.
I did.
Yeah, our stadium, I think this stadium was only 2 years old.
Yeah, the new one, yeah.
Oh my God, it was free. I don't think I've ever been that cold in my life.
Yeah.
And like, this is horrible. I don't think I even shook hands after the game. I ran in the locker room so fast, man.
That's funny. Well, the good news for the Buckeyes, they're indoors at AT&T Stadium. Then they're going to Glendale if they win that out in Arizona, and then Miami. So we're not going to deal with any of that, at least as far as the Buckeyes concerned. We're going to break that Cotton Bowl down next week on The Script. Thanks for joining us. Another episode next Wednesday. Hope to see you then. That is our Buckeye Basement solution. If your damp or wet basement needs a quality solution by a local company, it is time to call Buckeye Basement Solutions. They are the pros at waterproofing, foundation repair, and creating dry, healthy spaces you can actually use. I'm talking no more leaks, no more worries, just peace of mind under your feet. Company founder Brian Mastroianni and his team at Buckeye Basement Solutions wishes you a happy and healthy holiday season. That's BuckeyeBasementSolutions.com. or give them a call, 614-956-4592.